Hello everybody out there on YouTube. So today I wanted to talk about a topic that I had been wanting to talk about now for some time, but I had been putting it off just because of things, because of life, basically. And so today I wanted to make this video to talk about why I came off my antidepressants. And originally when I first decided to come off my antidepressants, I was looking all over YouTube and other like websites to see what people were saying and what their experience was, but to be honest, I felt like I really couldn't find a whole lot of people coming off their antidepressants and their experience, and so I wanted to contribute to where I feel is lacking, so that way hopefully other people can get help from this video. One of the things I want to say is that I'm not a doctor, and coming off of your antidepressants or your mental health medication isn't for everybody, but it was the right decision for me. And so why don't we get straight into the video? And so I was put on antidepressants about, let's see, February or maybe March of 2021. And prior to that, I had an existential crisis. I have another video that talks about my existential crisis and what I went through. And I was never really one to consider taking antidepressants just because that's how I was raised. I was kind of raised in a holistic family, and we were kind of like skeptical of, or pessimistic about certain mainstream medications, and antidepressants was just never something that was ever discussed in my family. So I never really considered taking them. But at the time, a year ago, back in January and February, my depression was very severe. I was suicidal all the time. I was suicidal pretty much every day. And I was at my wit's end. I just didn't know what to do, so I figured, well, I might as well give it a shot and just try out the medications and see what happens. So I was put on buproprion XL150, and I just took it once a day. And to be honest, I didn't really notice any difference. At first, my depression was still really bad, really severe. I was still in a lot of pain. I would say I started to notice somewhat of a difference within 2 months. Some of the heaviness that I had, it did begin to lift, but for about, let's say, maybe 4 to 5, 6 months after my initial existential crisis, which led to my depression was still pretty bad. So I mean, I think maybe for some people, maybe they go on antidepressants and perhaps they feel a lot better within 2 weeks, or maybe they feel like amazing within 2 months. I never felt amazing on my medications. And I only ever got to a point where I felt maybe tolerable. Let's say I felt tolerable, but I never felt like amazing. Like there wasn't, it wasn't like a lifesaver. I wouldn't say it was a lifesaver. And so, with that being said, I never really got a huge relief from my depression. And, because I've read a number of stories online and I've watched videos, and from what I think I understand is that for some people, it really helped to alleviate a lot of those depressive symptoms. And for some people, maybe it was like a miracle to them. But for me, it wasn't. It didn't really seem to do much, really. I just got to a point where my depression became tolerable. And to be honest, for me, I suspected that perhaps I was just healing on my own, and it wasn't really an effect of the antidepressant. So back in about November or December of last year, 2021, I had been on the buproprion for about 8 to 9 months, and I kind of hit a plateau. I made it to this point where the depression was tolerable, but I didn't really feel anything else. I still couldn't feel happiness. I still couldn't really feel a lot of pleasurable emotions. I mean, sometimes I could, but it was like here and there. It was bits and pieces, but I wasn't really happy on the drug, and I hit this plateau, and nothing was really changing. I mean, I'd kind of been in the same, like, state for several months, and so I just decided, or I started to consider coming off the drug. And I spoke to it with my doctor, and he wasn't really supportive of the idea. He said, well, if you go off it now, I'm afraid that you could go back to where you were in the first place. But for me, I just had this feeling like I didn't really feel that's what was going to happen. I just somehow knew that I had healed past that part of my life, that experience, and that the drug just wasn't aiding to me anymore. But I basically wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to listen to my doctor, and so I just stayed on the drug, even though I felt like it wasn't doing anything. But the thing about being on like a substance when you feel like it's doing nothing to you is that it feels kind of oppressive, because like you're forcing yourself to take this drug every day, despite the fact that you're not convinced that it's helping you. And so what eventually happened was I actually was on, back in December, I was like, early December of last year, I was on my last refill. And so I had called my doctor to let him know, hey, I'm on my last refill, I'm about to run out of my medication. And they weren't available that day, so I left a message. And it was like the weekend, and you can't see your doctor on the weekends, and so I had no way of getting my refill, and I ran out of my buproprion, and so I had to go like about I was going to have to go a few days without it. And so I was kind of scared at first. I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Am I going to start to have withdrawal symptoms, such and such? And so one day went by and nothing really happened, and 2 days went by, and 3 days went by, and 4 days went by, and a whole week went by. Basically, nothing happened. I mean, I was off the buproprion for like a whole week. Meanwhile, my doctor never got back to me. He did not refill my buproprion, which, even though even though nothing happened, the doctor still should have gotten back to me. And so basically, I'm off this drug now. I'm off for a week and nothing happens. I didn't have all these like crazy withdrawal symptoms that I read up online about, like the shakes, or having a fever, or getting nauseous, or anxiety, or all this stuff. I didn't really go through anything, which made me think that maybe this drug was doing absolutely nothing to begin with. So yeah, eventually, I just decided not, I just basically had it in my mind I wasn't going to go back on this drug. Like, if I'm having no withdrawal symptoms, and also I feel no different. So what I noticed is that once I was off the drug, I didn't feel any different. I felt exactly the same as I did when I was on the drug. I felt no different. And so, I just decided to stay off the drug. And, as time went on, as time went on, still, I didn't get any worse. I didn't go back to that time when my depression was really severe, back in January. I just never went back to that mindset, because for me, I personally believe that sometimes depression can happen from just a very traumatic event, and once you've healed past a certain point, you're just not going to go back to where you used to be. And so yeah, I stayed off of the buproprion, and I've been off it now for, let's see, I've been off the buproprion now for about 3 months, and my depression has not gone back to the way it used to be. Now, I do still deal with depression, but just not the way I used to. My depression now is a lot more manageable, and for me, I think everybody's depression is probably different for them. Like, I know that for some people who have depression, they might experience a lot of sadness. I don't experience that, because for me, I also have anhedonia, and anhedonia is when you don't really experience emotions strongly on either side of the spectrum. So like you're not going to experience really happy emotions, and you're also not going to experience really sad or like really negative emotions. Although sometimes I can, um, I just typically don't because it's part of the condition. So like one of the things that I mean, one of the symptoms of my depression is that I often have a hard time focusing. And being in school and working on my master's, it's definitely something I've had to learn how to work around. And I mean, it kind of feels like having to deal with having ADD or ADHD. I don't know like what is the right term nowadays. But I just know that before I had my existential crisis and before my depression was triggered from that event, I used to be able to focus really well on schoolwork. But then after all that happened, my depression has just been, it really plummeted ever since. But gradually I have gotten my focus back. It's just, I really have to learn how to manage it. Like for me, I only am able to focus on certain things at certain parts of the day, like typically around noontime, sometimes in the morning, but usually like past a certain time at night, I can't really focus anymore. Whereas like before, I could stay up, maybe until like 10 or 12 o'clock, and focus very well. I mean, I can still do that. It's just I just don't have the same amount of focus that I used to. And of course, another thing that I deal with having depression is the lack of motivation, which is something I am learning to manage. Um, because for me, I do feel that I do have some amount of motivation. Um, there are things that I want to get done. Like I know that deep down inside, I do want to finish this master's degree. Depression affects your way of thinking, and so my previous goals that I had, I just didn't really have any way to feel passionate about them. Like I have moments now where I can feel that passion, but it's not like a continuous stream where like I was always in the moment and I can always feel passionate about something. And that's part of the depression, is that for me at least, sometimes I can feel passionate about something, and that's part of the depression, is that sometimes I can feel passionate about something, and then on days when my depression is worse, I feel empty. So for now, what I've decided to do is just really manage the depression holistically, pretty much, because um, I just feel like the buproprion basically didn't do anything. I honestly think that it was a placebo effect the whole time. I really don't think it did anything, because like I said, once I came off the drug, I really noticed, I didn't notice any difference. So like, I know for people who really need to be on their antidepressants, like if they go off their antidepressant, they're going to plummet and they're going to notice a huge difference, like night and day. Whereas for me, literally, there was no difference. It was as if I was never on the drug. So that told me it really didn't do anything. So for me, I'm not really looking forward to being back on any drugs at any time soon. Maybe I won't ever go back on antidepressants. For now, I'm in a master's degree program, working to get my degree towards teaching, and I'm actually doing well. I mean, I get good grades, and I mean, I do struggle, but for me, um, one of the things has been transparency and just communicating and letting my professors know when I'm struggling, and they've been able to work with me, which is great. So yeah, I just wanted to do this quick video today just to like let other people know that if you are considering or if you are thinking about coming off of your antidepressants, then it might be the right avenue for you. First, you should speak to your doctor about it and see what they say. You should never just come off of your antidepressants cold turkey, which is what I did. But for me, it was like I didn't really have a choice, actually. It's because my doctor did not refill my medications and they were unresponsive to my request. But it turned out that I didn't go through any withdrawal symptoms, but many people do go through withdrawal symptoms, especially if you come off cold turkey. So it's actually very dangerous, and you should never come off cold turkey, and you are supposed to taper off your antidepressants if you do decide to come off of them. And how would you know if it's time to come off of those antidepressants? I think for me, it was just, I don't know if it's just like this gut feeling that I had. I just knew inside me, because, like I said, I mentioned that whole that plateau effect that I had reached, where nothing was changing for months. And also, like I said, the antidepressants for me never really made me feel happy. I never really felt like it wasn't allowing me to enjoy my life because of other things, other mental health issues that I deal with, that were actually keeping me from feeling happy. And the antidepressants just simply couldn't get past that barrier. So for me, yeah, they just didn't fulfill me. They just didn't make me happy. I was not happy on I just was not happy on the antidepressants. I was still depressed. And so I think, if you're considering coming off of your antidepressants, you have to ask yourself, like, am I happy? Am I satisfied with this drug? Am I happy on this drug? And if you're not, and if you've reached a plateau, and if it has been this way for a while, then maybe it is time to come off your antidepressants. I mean, there's other avenues. Your doctor's probably going to suggest that you can take this drug and that drug. For me personally, I just knew I didn't want to go on another drug. Because personally, for me, I know that there are things in my life that I have to work through therapy, through self-reflection, and just other things that I know that I have to deal with in life. For me, I just personally feel that antidepressants are just putting a band-aid on the issue, and it's not really getting to the core of the issue. So for me, I want to get to the core of the issue instead of taking antidepressants, and that's my choice. So, I understand and I respect, like, if somebody else, if they stays in their antidepressants, and if that what makes them happy, then that's fine, and that's your choice. But just for me, I knew what the right choice was for me. So if you're considering coming off of your antidepressant, speak with your doctor first, and hopefully you can come up with a plan, but don't force yourself to take something that you don't want to take. I mean, especially when it comes to a drug. If you are feeling oppressed by having to take this drug every day, don't force yourself to take it. At the same time, don't just come off of it cold turkey. You have to work with your doctor to find a plan. Thank you again for watching this video, and if you have any questions, leave a comment, and I'm wishing you a very wonderful day.